Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Founders Fire podcast. This is Eric Beck, and I'm excited to dive right in with you today on a topic that I think everyone's going to enjoy and hopefully really benefit from. It is about the business growth superfuel. What in the world is that, and what do you think that is? The business growth. If you're going to grow as an entrepreneur, you're going to grow your business, growth in general, there is a superfood for this, and we're going to be talking about that today. It is feedback. Feedback is the superfood. Now, that may not be like revolutionary to you, but I guarantee you the consistent application of what you learn from what you're hearing from people around you, from your customers, from your market is very, very central to your growth. But here's the thing. It's not just about going out to people and saying, hey, what do you think? That's going to put us in and not really an empowered leadership position. That puts us at kind of that service clerk at the fast food, restaurant where it's like, hey, how can I make your life better? And you just wind up getting ordered around. So we're going to talk about that and a lot of other topics coming up. Consistency drives engagement, outcome thinking, leadership versus servitude, a little bit of what I was just talking about. A couple of ancient proverbs that are really useful wisdom for us today and apply, more than ever. How to give effective feedback, but also how to receive feedback really from any source and alchemize that into that superfuel. So if you're ready to grow and get some feedback going, let's do it right now. I'm going to start off today with an article. This is a January 19th, 2024 article called How Effective Feedback Fuels Performance by Denise McClain and Bailey Nelson. Sorry if I hacked up your names, but appreciate your research. This has appeared in the Gallup Workplace. Here's a quote. Employees are hungry for performance feedback from their leaders, managers, and their peers. They want to gain insights that advance their abilities and future potential, and even more than ever, employee feedback is pivotal for engagement. Gallup data show that 80% of employees who say they received meaningful feedback in the past week are fully engaged. Now, let's think about that. When do we generally give people feedback? Well, if you run a business, if you're a small business owner or entrepreneur, you generally give people feedback when they're screwing up. Something's not right, and you're like, hey, I got to let this person know. Some of us don't do that. We're nervous to even tell people things aren't quite right or, something was amiss. And so we got to be careful on both sides of these. One is if it's always negative, that's a problem. But the other one is if we kind of stuff it and then suppress it and then kind of move on, that's a problem too. And the reason is because eventually it's going to create an eruption. I don't know who said this. It could have been Carolyn Mize. I'm not exactly sure, but there's a phrase out there so good. It says, "Emotions buried alive never die." Emotions buried alive never die. So if something is wrong, if something is bugging you, you need to find a constructive way to talk about that. Otherwise, it's going to start rotting on the inside. And if you wonder about your energy levels, your focus, your drive, and you're just looking outside for all these solutions, I like a latte as much as anybody else. But the solution to our energy is not going to come from the outside. It is going to come from the inside. And I would challenge all of you right now to just do a quick emotional inventory. Okay, this is what it means to be a conscious leader who is self-aware. Do an emotional inventory right now. Okay, where is there somewhere in your life or in your business that there is something that has not gone well and you have just stuffed it? And you're not willing to talk about it. You're not sure how to talk about it, and you would just rather move on. Okay. If there is any of those areas in your life, in your kind of operating system right now, I guarantee you it's taking energy from you. So if you're not sleeping great or you're not feeling your best during the day, well, of course, it could be other things. This is one that can't be overlooked. Okay. This is about receiving feedback internally from yourself, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But think about that. If you have something to say to an employee and it's negative, you need to know how to bring it and bring it in such a way that you're not tiptoeing around the rosies and the whole, what is the thing about the compliment sandwich? Start off with a compliment, tell them the negative thing, end with a compliment. Anymore, that's what we're running into in all of our society, is all of these formulas. AI is a giant formula machine, right? That's an algorithm that's constantly putting things together. And you can feel there's a certain amount of just insincerity there. It's not that it's wrong. It's not that the data it produces, the sentence structure is wrong or grammatically incorrect, but what it lacks is the human conviction of the idea. You see, it's not about getting everything right. It's about putting your heart into it. And when you bring your heart to feedback, guess what? People engage with that, even if it's negative. Okay. Well, what about the positive feedback that we often don't do at all, because kind of people don't hear from us unless things are going wrong? Okay, so what about that? Well, again, I love this analogy of the gallon of water that goes on the sapling. If you put a gallon of water in a bucket and you pour it on a sapling once a week, they did this study. It grows at a certain rate and it grows at a certain strength. Okay, so it's going to survive. It's going to do okay. But if the same sapling or one just like it in the similar soil and same environment gets a gallon of water a week also, but it's from a drip system, so just consistently dripping throughout the week, but the total amount of water in each week is a gallon. So it's the same amount of water, the same soil, the same sunlight, the same environment, everything is the same. But the difference is the frequency and the volume. Okay. I'm going to tell you what, when you talk to your team, it's always like the gallon because you're the boss. And if it's infrequent, it's going to land heavy and hard no matter what you do. So what do I do? Do I just stuff it and not say anything? No. Start a regular pattern of feedback that's more consistent. If it has been monthly, try and make it weekly. If it's been weekly, try and make it every other day. I don't have time to do that. I got to do work. Whoa, hang on there. Who is going to lead the team if you don't? Right? If you're busy in the details, as my old mentor back at eMyth used to say, if you're too busy working in the business to work on the business, who's driving the ship? And if you think that the business doesn't need leadership, you're fooling yourselves. Because when we stop leading, what happens is our team, what do they start doing? They start leading themselves. And that's fine. Except, could you imagine an orchestra where everyone was writing their own piece of music? And then we're all going to play the same concert? Each of those pieces of music could be brilliant, but we're not working together. Okay, there has to be leadership. I love the analogy of leadership by pulling. So I grew up in the South, and you can probably hear that in my accent some. But one of the things I love to do is water ski. And when you're getting ready to start skiing, you're in the water, your ski tips are up, you've got the rope in your hands, okay? When the boat starts to take off, what happens to the rope? It goes taut. It straightens out. And guess what you're going to follow? If you hold onto that rope, you're going to follow the boat. Okay. A lot of us as leaders try to get in the boat and circle around behind people and push them forward. Okay. That's called leadership by pushing. And it's infuriating. And in that case of water skiing, it would actually be dangerous, right? It's not going to work. Okay. We have to be going somewhere. And leading is not telling everyone what to do, but it is clearly and with commitment moving in a direction. And people who are on our team are like, hey, that's where I'm going. That's why I want to work here, because I'm going where you're going. Well, if the rope gets cut, and the boat's taken off and the rope disconnects, well, we're not leading anymore. Well, what is the rope? It's the feedback. It's the ongoing conversation where we're engaging people. And that's exactly what this article shows, is that when we engage people, when we give them that consistent feedback, I am telling you what, you see something totally different. And you think it's like a totally different team. It's not. It's not a totally different team. It's better leadership. This works at home too. If you have kids, try it, because it is amazing. This is where we're going as a family. This is what we're about in this season and summertime, or coming up in this fall, or this winter, or this next year. Okay, it doesn't have to be for like a 50-year plan or some huge thing. But if we're just living life, what happens pretty soon is the mundane and the mediocre take over. and our dreams start to fade and our motivation starts to fade. And now we're in that process of what we call regression to the mean. Have you been caught in that before? I'd love to hear about it. How did you get yourself out of that? Where it's just kind of day in and day out and, the same old, and there's really no more passion. What happened? And it happens to all of us, but I'd love to hear from you guys. How have you popped yourself out of that? A different topic than we're covering today, but an important one. To continue with a little bit of this quote from this article, if we give people consistent feedback, it supports agility. Fast feedback energizes employees and enables teams to make a real-time, on-the-fly performance adjustments that create a competitive advantage. So if we're talking more consistently, not like once a month, remember, but maybe once a week or maybe every other day, there is a buzz about the accuracy, about how we need to shift, about how we need to focus, that really gives us that real time, like you're driving a car sort of feedback instead of, hey, let's look at this next quarter or next year. Obviously, that's going to improve performance. The article says that employees are 3.6 times, 360%, 3.6 times more likely to strongly agree that they are motivated to do outstanding work when their manager provides daily versus annual feedback. My team, they're just not doing it. I don't know whether I got to fire people or yell at people. No, you got to talk to people. And you got to do it consistently, both the positive and the negative. Now, you guys have probably heard me talk about this book too. You're sick of it. But if you haven't got the book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, it's one of my favorites. I got the audio book on Audible, so I recommend that. Mainly so you can hear the way Jocko speaks. If you haven't been in the military or you haven't been around military people, there's a very distinct way that people speak, and it's excellent. It is a true excellence to the cadence and the clarity of how they speak. But it also is a good reminder from me from 20 plus years ago of my experience there. So I get a kick out of it. But he's got this very deep, very powerful, very clear voice. And he's talking about in the beginning of the book this exercise that the SEAL teams did. He's a Navy SEAL, a former Navy SEAL, and great business guy, entrepreneur, and a great thought leader in terms of leadership and in terms of, I think, really human potential. So anyway, in his book, he talks about this idea of the Navy SEALs during their training time. They have these boat races. And I don't know if he says that they're Zodiac boats. I can't remember what they are, but it's kind of an inflatable 8-man raft. It's pretty big, fairly heavy. It's a little bit tough to wield. And they have, let's say, 10 teams of 8 guys, all with this Zodiac. There's a leader and there's 7 crew, and they got to go out into the surf, row out a certain distance around a buoy, and then come back and get back to shore, and that's the race. Whoever gets back to shore wins. So they do this a few iterations. I think they call these evolutions. And so when they take assessment, there's this one team that's winning all the time. And there's this one team that's losing every time. So one team's in first place every single time, one team's in 10th place every time. And so the instructors decide to bring the boat crew, the boat leaders, up to them for a little powwow. And they start to discuss, why is this happening? And the number 10 guy says, well, the problem is my team. If I had the number 1 guy's team, I'd be set. And so they think about this for a second and they're like, okay, let's do it. We're going to take the number 1 team and give it to the number 10 boat commander. And we're going to take the number 10 team and give it to the number 1 boat commander. And let's go see what happens. And again, don't hold me to the exact details, but the net result is, sure enough, the better crew with the number 10 leader did better. I think they came in 2nd place or maybe 3rd place. But as they kept doing the iterations, and the worst team with the number 1 leader came in like 5th place or something, right? So kind of like what you'd think. But as they continued to do the process, what do you think happened? That's right. The number 1 crew with the number 10 leader got worse every time. And the number one leader with the number 10 crew got better every time. You see, because his book, Extreme Ownership, is about taking ownership of the results. It's not about blaming anyone ever. It's about massive, overwhelming, complete and total ownership of what's going on. If it's my team and it's not working, it's my job to figure out why. And blaming anyone or blaming the circumstances, which is what this other boat crew leader was learning about, is not going to get us anywhere. And so I love that idea because ultimately that is about the quality of feedback and the quality of the communication that's happening on that team. You know, these guys are all training to be Navy SEALs. They're not out of shape, couch potatoes who can't, row a boat. So while I'm sure there are some differences physically, not much. I mean, we're talking like the top 1% and 1% already. So when you see a difference of performance, you know what it is. You know it's about the clarity of vision, it's about teamwork, it's about coordination, which is all a matter of the quality of feedback that we're giving our team. And you can see here that it says that daily feedback made it 3.6 times more likely to get people motivated to do outstanding work. So love that article. So thank you, Denise and Bailey, for that article. Let's shift to another article. This one is called Turn Customer Input into Innovation. I love this topic. It's by Anthony Ulwick. It showed up in the Harvard Business Review. Quote here, companies ask their customers what they want. Customers offer solutions in the form of products or services. I'd like a picture or a video phone, they say, or I want to buy groceries online. Customers or companies rather than deliver those tangibles. And customers very often, and to everyone's chagrin, they don't buy it. So they ask the customer, what do you want? Company builds the thing or services the thing, gives it to them, and they don't buy it. The reason is quite simple. Customers should not be trusted to come up with solutions. They're not expert or informed enough for that part of the innovation process. That's what your R&D team is for. Rather, customers should be asked only for outcomes. That is, what they want a new product or service to do. If we make the mistake of saying, well, we need to get feed to grow, I need feedback from my customers. That's not totally wrong, but it's generally wrong. And the reason is what is being laid out in this article. Your customers are not in the business of designing solutions for themselves. They're in the business of hiring you to do that. So when you turn back around and hire them to do that, and frankly, you don't even pay them. I mean, let's just think about how fun it is to do a customer survey. I mean, don't we hate those? Of course we do, because they're wrong-headed. They might be good-hearted, but they're wrong-headed. So if you're running a business, I want you to think about this. What is the method by which you get real feedback from your customers that doesn't cost them? And that is not in this, it's like I said, good-hearted but wrong-headed way. How do you do this? Well, first of all, you have to shift your focus. Okay, they're not the innovators, and you shouldn't put them in that position. When we do that, we're hurting the customer relationship, and frankly, we're just not understanding what the roles are. And that is poor leadership. Back again to expert ownership or extreme ownership. That's exactly the problem, okay, is we're not being good leaders. We need to understand the position that everybody's in, and then from that position, we need to act. Okay, so a great question is not, would you like a phone that shows videos? Okay, a much better question is about the outcomes they're looking for, about the outcomes that they need, about the outcomes that would make their life better. You see, real leadership is always about creating, suggesting, and discussing a better future. That's what leadership is. Okay, leadership is a vision of the future. Okay, when that boat takes off, right, there's a future. When you shift that throttle forward, in the very near future, we know what's going to happen, right? Okay. And the person on the end of that rope who's water skiing can feel what is going to happen. And if they position their feet correctly and they balance correctly, within a second or two, they pop up on top of that water. And that future is fun, it's exciting, and it's a great way to spend an afternoon. Okay. But if we don't lead by pulling, if we're not in the right position, or we put our customers in the wrong position, and we put the boat behind the customer, we're going to get tangled up in the rope. Somebody could die. It's not a good thing. So you may think, well, that doesn't seem to be like a huge breakthrough idea, but I just want to say to everybody, that's not what growth is about. Growth is not about the huge breakthrough, awesome, amazing new paradigm. It's very often about the basics, the simple basics of communication in this case, both communication coming from you as a leader, and in the case we're talking about now, communication coming to you as a leader. But we have to create the framework and the context for that feedback. So if we go to our customers and treat them like they're innovators or product designers or whatever, we're putting them in the wrong role. We're creating the wrong context. It's going to frustrate them. And if we act on what they tell us, they're not going to like it. Okay, and this is if there's more in this article that goes on about that to some degree of hilariousness, because we're trying to be, what would you say, that counter clerk at the fast food place. How may I help you? And how can I help you? And what can I do? Oh, well, how about you get me this? And how about you get me that? And I'll have a little bit of this and I'll have some of that. No, I don't want that. I think I want this. And all of a sudden your company has turned into this weird sort of servant mentality. And I don't mean it in the good way, I mean it in the bad way, right? Because we're catering to the whims, because we've taught them to tell us their whims. That's not leadership. Yeah, but if my company's going to survive, don't I have to, engage the customers in this way and ask them what they want? No, you do not. Your job is not to give them what they want. Your job is to understand their needs before they do, and to create a path to solving those problems for them, to meeting those needs in a way that is fun, engaging, possibly novel, connected to a higher cause, something that is making them feel good and feel included in your tribe. Totally not, what whim shall I accomplish for you, my lord, and let me go run off and do that. No, not that. Not that at all. Let's go to an ancient proverb. As we kind of focus, we started off really on, folks that have employees and maybe that environment kind of shifting to customers. Let's come back around to us as individuals. Okay, some good ancient wisdom here. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Okay, so we've probably all heard that, but what does that really mean? Well, if you've ever sharpened a knife, you know that you're taking something against the edge of that knife that is producing a decent amount of friction. And if you're doing it at the right angle, you're going to create something very powerful, which is that blade edge, the cutting edge. The cutting edge is that last little bit of the steel or the metal that is coming to that very, very, very fine point. So that knife will actually be a workable tool. They say the most dangerous kind of knife is a dull knife. Why is that the case? Because a dull knife, you have to work so much harder. It's easy for it to slip out of your hand. It's easy for you to cut way too deep. It's just an inaccurate tool. It's a blunted tool. But when it is razor scalpel sharp, how much effort do you have to put into that knife? Not much. You can get exactly what you're going for with exactly the precision that you need. That's actually a safer knife. Now, again, if you take that analogy into humans and you say, what makes you that exact, powerful, focused leader? Because that's what your market is looking for, whether you're a solopreneur or you've got a team of 20 or a team of 20,000. It's the same. Okay, the precision quality of your thoughts and therefore your actions are what bring value to other people. And when you reverse roles and you say, you drive the boat, you tell me what you want, you tell me what to do, you are bailing out on your leadership role. Okay, and I know a lot of people talk about this idea, this phenomena of imposter syndrome. And on the one hand, self-doubt is understandable, totally real. But really though, guys, what it comes from, and maybe this is a little feedback I could give you guys, is it comes from not becoming a student of your craft. Oh, I heard this great thing and I put these ideas together and I'm going to run out, hang up my shingle, got my side hustle, here's my thing. And then you kind of feel like an imposter because you kind of are. You are. You're good at marketing the idea. Maybe you're good at selling, or you're good at marketing, or as one of my friends who's a Delta Force guy says, you're good at selling self-looking ice cream cones. I love that phrase. Okay. Again, not trying to be too harsh here, people, but the deal is this. If you are diligent in your practice, your performance will be easy. The practice should be miserable, so hard. You hate what you're doing. Okay. And I say this for having been in the Army, infantry air assault, having been in the martial arts, Shotokan karate for decades, lots and lots of fights under my belt, performing as a musician in the Lincoln Center and Hollywood Bowl and all these kind of places. I do have some experience at what I would consider to be near the highest levels of training, and then what that produces on game day. And I'll tell you what, if you hate that training, then that game is going to go well. But if you train just kind of so-so, or you don't train much at all, and you just kind of get the really good uniform on, I got my trumpet. I'm going to go play at the Lincoln Center in New York City, in Manhattan. Oh my gosh, people try their whole lives to ever be there. Well, here I am. I'm there. And what do I have? A really shiny trumpet. And I spent all this time shining my trumpet because it looks awesome. How am I going to feel walking out on the stage if I have spent very little time practicing becoming a student of my craft versus polishing the trumpet? That's where imposter syndrome comes from. And our world right now is very good at shiny trumpets. Here's the new shiny trumpet, get it, and you'll be awesome. And it's 3 easy steps. It's not. It's not. It's good, old-fashioned, hard work, which means you suck a lot. You really do. You sound terrible. Great. Keep sounding terrible. Keep in the practice room. Keep making incremental progress. When I was doing karate, one of the parts of the competition is kata, which is forms where you do a pre-laid out set of moves. Judges are looking for, balance and timing, your power, your focus, all of those sorts of things, a full execution of the technique, right? They're judging every little thing. Every little thing. Okay. How do you prepare for that? You record yourself. You set up a video camera, your phone or whatever, and you do that performance and you scrutinize it. And then you do it again and record it and scrutinize it. And it's miserable. You're like, man, I thought I was really fast, or I thought my stances were really powerful. And you look at the video and you're like, oh, wow. See, self-criticism is different than self-doubt. Self-doubt comes from a lack of preparation, and we kind of know it. And so that doubt is in there. But self-criticism is, this is what I did do, and now I can make that better. And this is what I did do that time, and now I can make that better. And that honing process, excuse me, becomes something that is so amazing. I'm going to tell a story about a great friend of mine, an amazing saxophone player who I had the privilege of training with at Belmont University in Nashville. His name is Jeff Kirk. Amazing saxophone player. And he said this to me once. He said, I don't continue to practice to try to make my great days better, because when there's a great day, it's not even me doing it. He said, the horn plays itself. Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, we're talking about virtuosos at the highest level, Wynton Marsalis, right? At the highest level of performance. It just plays itself. He was like, that's not why I keep practicing. Okay. I keep practicing to make my worst days better. Now, here's the cool thing. His worst day and his best day were so close that to us mere mortals, we couldn't really tell the difference. But he could tell the difference. Why didn't he ever have imposter syndrome? Because that's how he's practicing. I'm going to make my worst day better. So when I go out there and do my absolute worst, the audience has no idea that happened. They think it's the best thing they've ever heard. That's what the heck I'm talking about, people. Now, when you get that kind of passion and that kind of approach and that kind of dedication to whatever it is you do, making watches, selling, sunglasses, running your dry cleaners, when you do this, Tell me how in the world you have any competition. Oh, I'm worried about the competition. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. People who are worried about all those things are not focused. Worry comes when we don't focus. And as leaders, when we give our team feedback, we're helping them do what? We're helping them focus. When we go to our market and we lead in a direction, we're focusing their attention. Are they going to follow us there perfectly every time? No. But we cannot abdicate our leadership role and start following them. Now, is everybody a leader? And, there's all this want. I guess you used to call this like political correctness or whatever. I don't know what it is, woke or whatever. I just think it's dumb. I think it's dumb with this whole idea of like, we don't want to ever offend anybody. Iron sharpens iron means you're kind of offending them. You're rubbing against them. Now, not brutally to damage the blade, but there's got to be some friction. And when we try to create a frictionless world, it's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not dynamic. And guess what? We don't grow. We don't grow. All right. Another bit of ancient wisdom here as we land the plane. Be careful not to rashly refuse to learn from others. Cato the Elder, one of our Stoic philosophers. So we got Solomon. Now we're going to Cato, a Stoic. Rashly refuse to learn from others. I was privileged to train with an amazing educator years ago in California when I was doing curriculum design. And I won't go through all of his accolades, but they were quite impressive. He said this to me once. He said, Eric, you have to be willing to be coached by dirt, right? We think, oh, well, back to my time in music. I want to be, critiqued by so-and-so conductor who is the, world famous, protege of Leonard Bernstein. I did actually train with that conductor. I want to be, given feedback by that guy. But I don't want to be given feedback by somebody in a high school band, in Oklahoma. Be careful of that. Be very careful of that. Because if you start being overly selective about how you can learn and how you can be coached, you're headed towards that whole pride comes before a fall thing, right? The blind spot's getting bigger. We're thinking more of ourselves than we should. We need to be able to play music, in this case, I'll use that example, for somebody who knows nothing about music. And I remember actually playing, this is hilarious, but I'm going to tell you guys this because we're real here on the Founders Fire podcast. We're getting real. Okay. I remember playing a Van Halen song for my grandfather in the 80s. And I can't remember which album it was on, but I think it was 5150. I don't know. I'll have to dig back in the memory vault to see. But it was some song that I loved. I remembered playing on the cassette tape. Yep, it was back in the day, playing in my car and letting him hear this. And he said, I'll try to imitate him. I don't know, but it sounds like a bunch of boom, boom, boom to me. It sounds like a bunch of boom, boom, boom. Now, I could have just been offended that my grandfather had insulted this awesome rock and roll and reduced it down to a bunch of boom, boom, boom. Or I could have really listened to that. Now, I was young and stupid, so I was offended. Now, we didn't get in an argument or anything, but I remember thinking, oh my gosh, just roll my eyes, Okay, but if you back out a little bit and you take this advice that Philip Nix was giving me, you got to be able to be coached by dirt, okay? You got to be able to be coached by everything, every kind of feedback, the educated feedback, uneducated feedback, this thing, high level, low level, mid-level, whatever. Why? Because iron sharpens iron. There is the friction of somebody who listened to Mel Tillis and I don't know who else, country star, hearing Van Halen and going, I don't get that. It's like high energy, bang, bang, bang. I don't even know what they're singing about. What was he saying? He was saying, I don't connect. I don't know how to connect to what I'm hearing. It's not making sense to me. You see, if I was a music producer or if I was a writer and that was what I was trying to do is compose something, that's incredibly useful feedback. For my audience, I have to know how to connect to them. I have to know what expectation is there. And then I've got to make my message come to market, so to speak, based on that feedback. And I can't follow the feedback like the feedback is the leader, right? But it is the catalyst. And that's why I've got to get that feedback. Now, obviously, that was just one instance. And to get better, I'd need more feedback. And like we talked about with your team, back to business, that consistent feedback is really what's critical. All right, last quote here, and then we're going to get into a couple of practicals. It never ceases to amaze me. This is Marcus Aurelius. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Okay. This is the balance. This is the balance. Okay. This is that whole servitude attitude, like, oh, well, how can I help you? Oh, please let me help you. It's my honor and my pleasure to help you. Oh, let me just run around and make everything just right for you. Okay. Look, the pretend overly done politeness just doesn't feel real. It doesn't. When you go to a nice restaurant and you're going through the menu, you ask the waiter, tell me about this dish, tell me about this thing, and tell me about that. And he, if he's good, is going to advise you, tell me how hungry you are. What are you looking for, more savory? Are you looking for more sweet? What's your palate? What are you looking for tonight? This kind of fish is a little heavier. It's a little more dense. And this that is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be helping drive towards an outcome. And again, if we flip the role, we're actually doing a disservice. Like, again, if you make your customers make a lot of decisions, they're going to leave you. It's not good leadership. Good leadership doesn't make them work. It makes it easier for them. Okay. Decision fatigue is real. There's a key to sales in there. There's a key to marketing in there as well. If we're making people make a bunch of decisions, we're not really doing what we're supposed to do. It's also the case then that I have to decide as a good leader, where am I going? What am I standing for? What do I believe in? And have I practiced that? Have I diligently brought myself to that as a student? So I'm not doubting myself, and I'm bringing that to my market, and I'm saying, this is freaking awesome. I mean, I'll just tell you, yes, I think you guys all know this. I think Founders Fire is amazing. I totally believe in it. It transforms people's lives. I'm on the phone every week with different cohorts and clients, taking them through this program, listening to my coaches deliver this program, blown away because it's changing their life. It absolutely is. It's changing their employees' lives, and by extension, the market that they're in. It's amazing because when you use these principles inside of your business, it totally works. Absolutely amazing. Makes you a better leader, makes your business a more valuable service to your market. So you got to be convinced of your own opinion, but you got to listen to other people too. It is a balance between the two. So let's talk about this in really practical terms. We mentioned how we give effective feedback, but also how we receive it. So let's start with the giving feedback. If you're in a business or in a business context, this is the method that we teach in Founders Fire. And I'm going to teach you guys it right now. Okay. I got to give feedback to somebody. How do I do it? Okay. First thing is you want to state the standard. Okay. Let's say somebody shows up late. So the standard is that work starts at 8:30. That's the standard. Okay. The first thing we want to say is we want to state the standard. The second thing we want to say is how they missed it. Okay. So John, hey, let's say that guy comes in, it's 8:40 and he's late and there's whatever. It's not really appropriate right now to address it on the spot. We got to get going. We got teams that got to get moving or whatever. So we're not going to have a meeting right now, but you can mention, hey, John, come back by and see me just right before your lunch break. Let's talk about this morning. So you give them a little bit of a heads up. Okay, this is good. We don't want to do an ambush meeting. Remember, when people feel threatened, you're going to get silence or you're going to get violence. Okay, silence is they don't talk. They don't look at you. Eyes down, slumped over. They don't engage with you. They just like maybe say, uh-huh. Anytime we're giving someone feedback and we're getting, quote, silence, they're not engaged. They feel threatened. They're gone. They're escaping. And that means no genuine communication is happening. So just shut up because nothing is working right now. They hung up the phone. Don't keep talking, okay? What do I mean by violence? Well, unfortunately, there is actual violence, like physical violence that can happen. But I'm not really speaking about that. I'm really speaking about aggression. So let's say they're being sarcastic, or they're blame shifting, or they're giving lots of excuses, or they're yelling or slamming the door. So it's not that it's just emotional. It can be physical. They stand up and point in your face. These are the cues that we need to be very adept at as leaders to perceive in our team. Am I getting any signs that they feel unsafe, that they're going to check out? Okay. Now, I know some of you are like, well, look, everybody's not this unique, beautiful snowflake that needs to be coddled and we can't offend anybody. And it's all about everybody be nice. And the worst thing you could ever possibly do is offend somebody. Eric, are you telling me that that's how I'm supposed to walk on eggshells? And is it really, is that what you're saying? No, I'm not saying that, because I think all that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How can iron sharpen iron if it's, you know, cotton ball on cotton ball? It can't. However, there's a balance to that, right? And the balance is, if we're leading people and we're helping people grow, they cannot grow when they're afraid. Okay, fear shuts down learning, and that is subjective. Now, if you've hired the wrong person and they're not a fit for your team, then you trying to accommodate all this topography of emotional whatever chaos is probably not going to work. Okay, it's not the right. They don't have the maturity. It's not the right person. But if they have the right maturity and it's the right person, now we still need to be very responsive. We do. We need to pay attention to them. We need to be a student of them. Why? Because it's our job to help them grow. It's our job to help them perform. So if you've not read the book Culture Code, I can't remember the author off the bat, but I highly recommend it. He has a whole section in there where he's talking about these amazing cultures where people are able to understand how to communicate with each other at a profound level. He talks about this basketball coach who knows this guy you go up and give a chest bump to. This guy, you just stand beside him and let him talk. This guy, you go over and get him in a headlock and like kind of challenge him some. And this head coach is like 78 years old, and he's coaching, guys that are like in their mid-20s that are these uber athletes that just tower over him. But yet he's doing all these different things because he was a master of understanding how people need to hear the message, right? Amazing. Amazing. So with our team, we've got to make sure we're paying attention. Okay. When we're giving feedback, we want to make sure we don't do an ambush. Okay. So, hey, can you come by a little bit later? When the person comes by, hey, come on and have a seat. I want to talk to you about this morning. State the standard, state how they missed it, state your plan. Okay. So this is what happened. This is the standard. This is what happened. Can you tell me about that? Oh, my dog got, ate my homework and I got stuck behind the train and my Uber canceled 18 times and whatever. Okay. Gosh, it sounds really tough. If you can empathize a little bit, if you can validate that, that's great. You have to agree. You don't have to say that it's true. But if you can just hear it and be like, hey, if I was stuck behind the train, it'd be, infuriating. I get it, or my babysitter didn't show up, or I'm dropping my kids off at daycare and this thing. I mean, that would be super frustrating. Okay. Validate a little bit. Now we need to make a plan. So going forward, this is what we got to do. Okay. Can I count on you for that? Very, very important to say that. Don't say, okay, got it. Understand. Right. Okay. Got it. Fist bump. Nope. I don't want understanding. I don't want comprehension alone. I want apprehension. Okay. I don't want mental assent. I don't want just mental agreement. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I got it. I understand. That's not what I want. Okay. And that's not what you want as a leader. Okay. What you want is a change of behavior. And that requires a commitment. So I'm asking for the commitment. Can I count on you? Use those words. It's you might think it's goofy. Okay. If you don't have any issues with accountability on your team, or you don't have any issues with feedback, then you keep doing it the way you're doing it. But if you want to see something different, try something different. When you're done and you stated the plan, can I count on you for that? Yes, you can. Okay. I'm counting on you, man. Great. That is what we need. Okay. That's a great beginning of there's the whole module that we have on feedback. That's just the first little bit of it, but that's a good starting place. Okay. What about the opposite about hearing feedback? Well, the first thing is you need to ask for it. And if you're thinking of your team, just regularly asking them, hey, how am I doing as a leader? What can I do to support you better? Specific questions give specific answers, and that allows us to take action. Generic questions, they don't really go anywhere. Okay. The other side of it is getting feedback from our market. This has to do with financial radar. It's another module in our program. How am I looking at what's happening week in and week out, day in and day out, in terms of spending patterns of my customers? What are they buying? What are they not buying? Where's the pushback? So like the famous quote says, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. That's a whole feedback system right there. Okay. What about feedback for us as just people? Okay. You're like, okay, you've been talking a lot today about the teams. But what about just me? I'm thinking about starting my own business, or I just started my own business. How do I grow from feedback? I'll tell you what, get focused on your outcomes. The more focused you are on the outcome, the result you want to cause for your customer, the more you can align the feedback. So we've all heard about funnel marketing. How about funnel feedback? Okay. There is feedback you're going to get from your market that's not useful. Okay. It's not that it's wrong. It's not in the barriers of the funnel. The funnel is the edges. If the funnel is too narrow, it's a straw. If it's too wide, it's a plate. Okay. So we want it somewhere in the middle. That means there's some feedback coming down that's going to not be connected really to driving you forward. So you got to be aware of what to let go of. Okay. But the feedback that is in the funnel, you need to bring that down to actionable steps. And if you are thinking about the outcome you want to cause for your customer, what is the outcome you want to cause from? I want to sell stickers. Nope, that's not the outcome. I want to make money. Nope, that's not the outcome. I want to quit my job and not have to have a boss. Nope, none of those are really appropriate outcomes. I'll just give you some feedback, okay? Why not? Because you're not talking about the person you're serving. Okay, like I said before, serving isn't bad. It just can't be servitude, right? Okay, so you want to sell stickers? Why? Because stickers make people happy. Stickers make people smile. Stickers make people have a better day. They bring a funny thought to mind or something like that. I'm creating a little bit of joy in somebody's life. Aha, now we're talking. Okay, now that's the outcome. Now the feedback is aligned to that outcome. What feedback am I getting that's telling me I am doing that, or telling me I'm not doing that, or telling me I'm doing something else? You see, when we commit to an outcome, everything else falls in line. Okay, just like the speedboat on the ski boat on the lake. Okay, when it takes off, it commits and that engine roars. Zoop, the straight line on that the ski rope. There it is. It's a straight line, and now we're going somewhere. Okay, if we're too wishy-washy and we don't have outcome thinking as a part of our arsenal, launching that business is not going to happen. Growing our business, if we already have one, is not going to happen. Bringing our business to full maturity and building all the systems that make that true is not going to happen. So I hope you guys have gotten some practical stuff out of today. Appreciate your listenership. If you don't mind, smash those 5 stars, give us a rating. We love that. And if you want some help, I'll invite you guys to the best starting place that you can come to is just our website, foundersfire.com. If you're already in business or you're thinking about starting a business, you can take our assessment. It's foundersflagship.com. Take that bad boy and get your roadmap, because it's really going to let you see what is needed on your journey as a leader to make the changes that you want to see. So here's to your success, and thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys next time.